Greetings. I don't know exactly who gonna watch this video. I realized that it's been some years that I have actually gone live on the internet. Well, it's just turned after midnight in Jamaica, which means it's long after midnight in Barbados and in other parts of North America. Not yet midnight in Belize, but um, it's October the 5th. And that means that is the birthday of my first son. He is 27 today. He has lived for 27 years. Kirsten, Felix, Paul, Kelvin. Yesterday I was watching on YouTube a video of a St. Lucian lady who went over to St. Vincent. I don't know who's watching this, so St. Lucia is in recent fame because of Julianne Alfred winning the 100 meters goal at Olympics. She comes from St. Lucia and silver in the 200 meters. St. Lucia is a Caribbean island. St. Vincent is another Caribbean island very close by. Because some people think when they say Caribbean that all the islands, like they're all part of Jamaica. So we are all separate. I'm in Jamaica right now, and but 27 years ago we were in Belize, and this is where my son was born. And 9 months after he was born, we got transferred out of the Caribbean to Bermuda. Bermuda falls under the jurisdiction of Canada for the Salvation Army. And we signed a contract, my wife and I, for 3 years to go to Bermuda. And it was a very uncertain time. This is back in 1998. I couldn't fathom being away from the territory, being away from the Caribbean. For 3 years, signing a contract for 3 years. 3 years, I was only 27 at that time, and 3 years sound like an eternity. And we went over there. He was 9 months when we left Belize, just starting to crawl. And we got there in July. In October, we noticed something was wrong because he had started to walk, and then he would not walk again. He went back to crawling, and then when he was crawling, he would fall over on his back. And God has a way of organizing things. We were in Belize and couldn't figure out, leaving the territory, leaving to go to Canada and Bermuda. We can never understand the way how God works, as why the Bible says He works in mysterious ways. And that's why the Bible also said, God said, I know the plans that I have for you, right? So remember these two verses here. I know the plan I have for you. I think that's in Jeremiah or something. And it's late, right? It's after midnight, so pardon me if I quote the wrong spot. And then Romans 8:28, all things work out for good for those who are the called, right? And as Salvation Army officers, we say we are called. So Romans 8:28, and then the one, I know the plans I have for you. And then can't remember what was the other one. But the Lord works in mysterious ways, His wonders to perform. Right? So remember these verses in Matthew 6. Deliver us, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. Right? So all these verses come into this thing. So my wife, Priscilla, had a cousin willing to live in Bermuda, and she was going to the Salvation Army, and when we went to Bermuda, we met her, and this is the first time Priscilla meeting this lady, and we became friends, of course, because of the family connection from St. Lucia. And she suggested, when we said what was happening to Kirsten, go and get a CAT scan at the hospital. So, and she was working at the hospital. You see how everything come together? And we went there, and Kirsten was very restless. He was only 1 year and 1 month, and he would not sit still to do the CAT scan. And so then, well, the technician said, well, we can't do anything, you have to reschedule. So we left the room and went to another part of the hospital where Priscilla's cousin was. And there, Kirsten fell asleep. And she suggested to us, well, go back there and try to see if they'll take him. We went back there, and by some word of God, they said, okay, we'll take him because he was sleeping. And he did the CAT scan. We left there, the hospital, and decided to go to headquarters in Bermuda. It is about less than 10 minutes away. So we went into the parking lot, got in the vehicle with him, and we drove to headquarters. When we reached headquarters and we parked in front of the building, and we were about to get out, the secretary rushed out saying, don't come in, go straight to the doctor, the pediatrician. The pediatrician's office was right around the corner from headquarters. When we went there, not knowing what was happening, but they were expecting us, and the pediatrician explained that our son, the CAT scan results had come back, and they had called him right away, and our son was having something called hydrocephalus, otherwise known as fluid in the brain. And we couldn't understand the whole thing. And they said, well, where you want to go? Because we have to fly him out. You can't do this operation in Bermuda. You need to see a doctor. And so you have two options. Either John Hopkins or, John Hopkins? Some hospital in Boston for children. I don't think it's John Hopkins. I don't know why I said John Hopkins, but a hospital in Boston. Or the Sick Kids Hospital for Children. Hospital for Sick Kids in Toronto. Well, we said, well, since we're under Canada and Bermuda, we should go to Toronto because this, this is where headquarters is for Salvation Army. And so they said, okay, so we'll arrange to Sick Kids. And they arranged for this air ambulance to come. Now, we don't understand all this stuff here. We went back to headquarters and said, okay, well, you got to go home and pack some bags and bring him to the hospital. And so we went home. I don't even remember what happened. We went home and started packing some suitcase with some stuff to go back to the hospital. And we stopped by Belinda and Mike, her husband, along the way. Got some advice and so on, and then I think maybe prayer, something like that. Then we went to the hospital. Went to the hospital, they admitted him. And we were just sitting there. And we said, the plane is coming in, and then we have to go to the airport. We went to the airport in an ambulance. First and only time I have been in the back of an ambulance. And we reached the airport, and we did not go in the regular way. We went around the back, like we literally went onto like where the planes are. But there was this gas truck there, and they said, "Oh, the plane is fueling." And when I said, "I didn't see the plane." When the fuel truck moved, then I saw the plane. A small. I am claustrophobic. I got on the plane, and then I realized, "Oh, this can't work." And they said, "Well, okay, we'll put you on a regular flight." So I got off and left my wife with Kirsten, and they flew off on the air ambulance, and I went home. And the next day I flew to Miami and then to Canada. There, Priscilla went to the airport, went to the hospital, and was admitted. And while we were there, the divisional commander and his wife were in Toronto at the same time for a conference. And members from our church were also there. We had just gone to Bermuda, but members were also there. I'm just trying to show you how things come together, right? And during that time we were there, our divisional commander and wife were visiting us, looking after us, and the soldier from the church, the Geraldine, was coming to the hospital too, and then I'd spend time. And the Canada and Bermuda headquarters, territorial headquarters, they gave me a vehicle to drive. I never been to Canada, and this thing was risky. And I never drive under. Oh, well, in Belize they drive on the right, yeah. So, but no, I was in Bermuda driving on the left, but Bermuda drive on the right. But Bermuda drive on the left, Canada drive on the right. So how things work out now. When I went to Belize, I was driving on the right, for the first time. And then I was in Bermuda driving on the left. Then, but because of being in Belize, I had the experience of driving on the right. Trust me, is two different things after a while. So then Kirsten had the surgery, and he was supposed to get this thing called a shunt put in and a tube, so that when the fluid in the brain, when we noticed the fluid in the brain building up, we would manually pump this thing. And he's supposed to get some tubing put in to run to the stomach so that the fluid bypasses the blockage in the brain and then goes down to the stomach. But the likelihood that he would still be alive was very slim, because when they do this thing for babies, they just put in the tube in, and by the time they reach a teenager or so, they die because there's not enough tubing in the body to reach the stomach, and so they die. So knowing all this and hearing all this and trying to understand all of this, we were totally overwhelmed. Salvation Army in Canada provided a retired officer. I don't know if she was Colonel, her name was Kerr. And she stayed with us during the time of the surgery. She was there praying and so. This is the first time that we actually prayed when he went to surgery. In the whole ordeal, like together. Because we are so terrified day by day and just there waiting to see what's happening and so. The long story of the story is he came out and he didn't have a shunt in, and the neurosurgeon was always using his story as an example to others. But how I say about the mysterious ways of God is that we knew that if we had stayed in Belize, he might not have been diagnosed with this thing, and he would have just died. When we got there, they said to us that if we had waited and rescheduled this CAT scan, he would have died. He was at the point of dying. The brain, the sides of the brain were pushing against the skull. The fluid was so much in there, and that's why he stopped walking. Every time I tried to cut the hair, he'd be crying because he was in pain. We did not know. He could not talk. And so he was saved from death. And He is alive today, 27 years. He's probably dead, you know. So remember, he was supposed to be dead at 1 year and 1 month. And then you're not supposed to laugh to teenage. No, he is 27. Still without the shot. I think he had some side effects, I believe, from that. But I mean, he went to university and he is very good in with the hands, with um, network systems, computer systems, networking. He plays music. He inherited these genes, and he's very. I was gonna say obedient, but very respectful, and try to do the best. I wouldn't say obedient, very obedient, because sometimes he doesn't do the thing that we would want him be said to do. Not in a bad way. I mean certain decisions that we think is best as the parents. He very strong-willed. But everything worked out. Worked out that the divisional commander and his wife were in Canada to give us pastoral care. That a member of the church we had just moved to was there to support us. That we were in Canada and Bermuda, and they took care of all the expenses. I salute the Salvation Army Canada and Bermuda Territorial Headquarters, the Salvation Army, members of the Salvation Army in Canada and Bermuda. These guys show some extreme pastoral care to us. Right in that moment, as we just arrived, we were totally strangers, in the territory. And for 5 years, blessing after blessing in that territory. And even now, 26 years later, we still have that strong connection with Canada, love from the people over there, most of whom are retired now. And then a lot of the people who were in the church we were at have died. But a number of factors came into place, and then Priscilla having a cousin over there who gave that advice because she was a nurse. God works in mysterious ways. And why I'm saying this is because I was watching the YouTube video last night, and when the lady was describing what happened to her baby, I realized this is the same thing. Hydrocephalus, and she said the boy got the surgery, and the surgery was free in St. Vincent. So kudos to the government of St. Vincent. And she is so happy because the son, the baby received this surgery in St. Vincent, and she's from St. Lucia. And so when I listened, I realized she was reenacting what happened to my wife and I in 1998. 26 years ago, when we went through this whole ordeal. And I could identify with this lady. She's so happy now that her baby now has a new lease on life, and he says now she had about 6 feet of cable of the tubing inside, which means that unless he becomes 7 foot tall, he should be able to survive, because there's enough tubing in the body that when he gets bigger, the tube will still be able to reach his stomach. And I understood this lady, understood her. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3-4 talks about God is a God of all comfort, and things happen in our life. He comforts us so that we can comfort others with the comfort that we receive. Basically, it's saying things happen in our life, and we don't understand it, but things happen in our life so that we can have experience, so that when we meet somebody else that's going through the same thing, we consider them. I understand. I know what you're going through, and this happened for me. I'm sure it can happen for you. God, heal my child and give him a second chance. When I was praying, and I made this vow to God, or plea to God, or bargain to God, just like Hannah in the book of First Samuel. And she was praying in the temple to God, asked God to give her a son, and she'll give the son back to him. I said, Lord, protect this baby, save this baby, heal this baby. And if he comes out, help him to be a Christian. And every time I sit to Kirsten for any time, he was a baby, and every time, please, you cannot do anything but be a Christian, because God saved your life. You owe God with your life. And of course, now I made that bargain or plea to God to save him, and ask God to help him to stay as a Christian. But it's up to him, really, to decide to walk in that path. Fortunately, right now, he seems to be walking in that path, and I give God thanks. But it's his choice. We all have choices to make in life. I'm going to conclude this live here now. 21 minutes. By 25 minutes, I'll finish. We all have choices to make in life. So many crazy things are going on. And I'm taking time to talk, you see, because people go on live and talk all kind of foolishness. And sometimes people talk about the negative things. Or you see something happening for somebody, if it's bad, we fast to spread the news. We hardly spread on the good stuff, on the good things. We hardly encourage people these days. We hardly, look out for each other. But life is short. When watching that lady on YouTube reminded me of my own son. And every time I always think about it, every time I see him, I remember this boy that was supposed to be dead, that is standing in front of me, that is living, that is, wow. And this is a big gift from God. All three of my children are, but this one was the biggest one. And life is short, as I was saying, but God is working out things for all of us. God is setting up things in our life that we don't know it, because it's mysterious. Why? Because we don't know it. We don't know it. We can't see it. He is doing things literally behind our back. He's doing things while we're sleeping. He's doing things unbeknown to us. So you and I now are faced at this point here. Everybody, my son, my wife, everybody in this world. What are you doing with the life that you have now? What are you doing with this breath that you have? Are you using your powers? If you watch these movies, they say, don't use your powers to do evil. Are you using your powers are you using that breath of life? Because that's powerful. Are you using it for evil? Are you using it to build up somebody? To do some great thing in the world? You don't have to be famous like Julian Alfred, St. Lucie, or Muhammad Ali, or Barack Obama, or Nelson Mandela, or Martin Luther King, Simone Biles, all kind of names we can call. We can call Serena Venus Williams. We can call all kind of names. Trump, Kamala. This is the latest ones. Everybody works in on Putin. You don't have to be a big figure to create change in this world. You can do it right where you are. But it must be positive, because the world is crying out. People all over the world crying out for something positive. They want positive. They want affirmation. They want compassion. They want blessing and provision and protection. And most of all, people need miracles from God. And you and I, we can be the miracles. We can be the agents of miracles. To come into people's lives and change them for the better. So I celebrate my son at this time, 27 years. And actually now I should talk for 27 minutes. Good. So let me continue. So I celebrate him, and I thank God for the way our family has been because of him being there. It always keeps us humble and grounded and looking to God because he realized that we could not save him on our own. And therefore, we had to rely on God to work through other people. How many people God used? He used the Salvation Army to enable us to move to Canada and Bermuda. He worked through the headquarters of Salvation Army in Toronto and divisional headquarters in Bermuda. He worked through our divisional leaders. He worked through soldiers at the Corps in Bermuda. He worked through the Caribbean. Two people were praying in the Caribbean. People were praying in Canada and Bermuda. He worked through my wife's cousin and her husband there in Bermuda. Worked through all the doctors and nurses at the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. Worked through the neurosurgeon. You see how many people? I can't even stop counting. And that's what happens to all of us. God has a number of people, agents working in our lives to help us and bless us. We can't see that. And we don't know what they're doing. But it's a mysterious working. But all things come together for good. And because God has a plan to prosper us and not for us to fall and fail. Trust in him. God bless you. Again. He is good all the time. All the time. He is good.